Behind the Cape. So obviously we do our segment here for Behind the Cape, but we also do a segment called House Divided where we talk college football. And this week college football just started, which was great. It's awesome. We were ready to see Utah versus Florida, and everything was going great. I got some food and was late to the game, and so I got a call from Marcus saying, "Hey, bro, are you watching the game right now? Do you see what's going on right now?" I'm like, "Nope, I have no idea what you're talking about." Turns out that Charter and Disney are having some sort of dispute to where their channels are just no longer on Charter communications, and that's a problem because they decided at the worst time to get rid of these channels, which was literally at kickoff.
So I worked in cable for 2 different companies for about 6 years in total. And then most recently in my current position, I don't have any experience in show business, obviously, but without, revealing who I work for, I have somewhat of an external relationship with some of these companies that we're talking about now. And so that's kind of giving me an idea of, at least an auxiliary view of like spending habits and things of that nature, and kind of, especially with the cable industry, exactly what's going on here. So, yeah, to kind of match his experience with the frustration of the whole, pull the rabbits out of the hat thing, it was even more frustrating to me because, obviously I have 2 young children. I have a 5-year-old and one that was just born. And so, like, a lot of Disney Junior, a lot of, regular Disney Channel, Disney XD, that kind of stuff. And so we were able to watch that stuff all day. Mm-hmm. That stuff was on. Even the game itself was on. I called my wife to tell her when I'm on my way home to put it on the television. And so she said it was on. They was getting ready to kick off. And then as soon as I walk in the house and turn and get to the TV, it's this message on here. Spectrum is in negotiation, blah, blah, yada. We're on your side, blah, 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 blah. Okay. So that's Spectrum side of it, right? Here's what's a kind of a holistic view of what's happening, right? So as we've talked about before on the pod, I think we said it a couple of times. When you buy a cable package, sometimes it's not all a la carte, right? It would be too expensive to sell it to you that way. It'd be too expensive to serve it to you that way. So they sell it to you in a package. Within that package, you end up buying bundles of television stations that go along with each other. So you're not paying for each individual channel. You usually pay for it in packages. Disney's bundle is pretty expansive, and it includes some channels that historically have not really driven the brand in terms of viewership, but more so are stables for their older IPs or some of their more experimental stuff in the teen space or the kid space, right? That's what those channels are usually for. Your Freeforms, your Disney XD, that kind of stuff, right? Mm-hmm. Your mainstay channel, like the Disney Channel, is obviously, that's your brand leader. ABC, the ESPN, those are brand leaders. Mm-hmm. But even ESPN viewership has been way down.
Yes.
So every so often, the cable companies and the studios have to come together and they have to negotiate prices for these bundles. Disney is notoriously high. Again, this is personal experience talking now. This is not just conjecture. Disney's bundle is notoriously high, and they are also one of the content providers that requires you to take the most when you buy it, right? And it's really that particular that if it is one channel in dispute, then it's the whole thing. What's being kind of fought over right now is that from Spectrum's perspective, they have these underperforming channels. You're the most expensive package for us and our customers on the lineup, right? They probably want to come down. Disney's perspective is that something else that we've talked about very extensively here is this whole idea that streaming was going to replace cable, and not just over time, but immediately, right? And you've seen it in all of these companies and all of these studios kind of bought into that shit as well, that, you know, streaming is the new wave. And I believe they prematurely kind of pushed their way into the market, right? And the price points aren't right. They don't have the viewership or the subscribership to support a lot of these streaming services. A lot of them have gone belly up. We've got a lot of high profile fails in the streaming space. The only ones that may be viable once all this dust settles may be Max, Netflix, and maybe Hulu. If, you know, Disney has their way, that may not be a thing, and they may just fold the Hulu library into Disney Plus, and that's what survives. Yeah. But either way, those are the only three viable options. The rest of this stuff is really struggling. Yeah. There's not a whole lot of people watching this stuff. I know it's funny to talk about Tubi, but nobody's actually watching it. Yeah, sure. Josh is watching it,
and I'll make sure you guys watch it.
So that's what Disney's saying, and they're saying, well, shit. I mean, we know firsthand that streaming maybe isn't as upon us as we previously thought, because lo and behold, cable subscriber numbers are going up. And again, we talked about this. When you have all these streaming services coming in at the price points that they're coming in at now, right, for ad-free content, you are really not creating a degree of separation between you and the cable companies. You're actually making it more advantageous to get in league with the cable company. And now I can get all of your middling streaming services for the price of my admission to the cable company. Right? I don't have to go to all of you individually. I don't have to go to AMC and then TLC and then the other C and then, you know, ESPN and then all these other channels individually to build up a resemblance of a cable package that I enjoy. I can do it as a one-stop shop, get Netflix, and be done with it.
Yeah. That's the way it always was supposed to be, I figured, but it's gotten to a point where we got all these millions of...
There was a time in there where even within the cable companies, right, like people were treating it like it was a dying industry, and when it didn't flutter off the way that they expected it to, now people are starting to adjust and reassess, right? Like when you have a dinosaur of an industry like cable, you can't kill it overnight, right? The infrastructure runs too deep. The money is too long, and the people at the very top have way too much invested just to let it die like that. Yeah. So if you didn't have a very concrete plan to force them out of the market, which is we've seen now the streaming services did not, then you were going to be up against it. And so now they're at a spot where they look like just the fleeting new thing that was here today and maybe gone tomorrow. And cable ends up seeming like the more steady, stable, reliable product. Here's where so that's what everybody wants, right? Disney says, oh, well, people are coming back to cable, so we can try to get some more money out of that. And plus, if you add on top of that, Disney really needs the cash flow. They are desperate for the cash. They need it, right? And this is just one of the many probably money-making opportunities that they're looking at and trying to maximize, because who's going to blink first, right? In that instance, the cable company or the studio? That's tough to call. It's tough to call. You may lose the slight uptick in cable subscribership that you've gained in the recent years by doing this, because you don't have football in America and fall. That could be a death sentence depending on how long you go. Yep. Conversely, Disney is not really in a position of strength. They may be posturing that way, but they're not. This is a pretty desperate move, because do you know how often, and for the adults in the room, you've probably seen these messages a lot more than maybe some of our younger demographic, but how often this stuff happens. You get these messages. They may send you some communications in the mail. You may see a flyer. You may see it late night on your television at 3 a.m. when you're not really supposed to be watching, but we just got to get it out there and give you the information. They may tell you then, but 99.9% of the time, 12th hour, they come to some sort of agreement, and there's no reason for both industries to be disrupted to that degree. The fact that Spectrum waited and let you actually sit up there and act like you was about to watch kickoff of the biggest week 1 game there was at that point, and then to show the message, that tells me that they knew that Disney was going to dig in their heels, and they wanted to try and make them look as bad as possible. I think they lose in public perception, though, because people aren't able to track it all the way back to Disney.
Yeah.
Only thing they know is they pay you for a service. You didn't give it to them at the most opportune time for them to have it. Right? They absolutely needed it now. You took it away from them now strategically as a bargaining pitch. Well, I may not even understand who you're bargaining with or why. I do know I pay you $150 a month to watch ESPN on a Thursday if I want to.
Yep.
But again, Disney is not in an actual position of strength. If Spectrum is reserved to take the short-term losses and the reputation hit to make sure that their customers' prices remain the same, because that's the devil. That's the devil in the details. If Disney gets what they want, your cable bills go up. They put more of a charge on the Spectrum. Spectrum then trickles those charges down to the consumer to pay. Right now, I think we're paying around 50% of the licensing fee per subscriber. That's what it was when I was there. So it's a $9 charge. $4.50 usually goes to the customer on a licensing fee for one of the channels. Right? But see, Disney's is like $20. Their package is like $20. So $9 of that is to the customer. And so now if they get what they want and they get a higher price point for the packaging, then, you know, your cable bill's going up. Spectrum's not going to eat all that.
Yep.
They're not going to do that. So,
for sure.
And that's kind of where we're at with it. Disney desperate for money. Spectrum playing games with the consumers. There's absolutely nothing that keeps them from keeping these channels on the station and negotiating. There's nothing that keeps them from doing that. But in any case, this is the route they've chosen to go. I think that they were going for the most shock value. And they certainly got it. I mean, they certainly got it. I just don't know who comes out the winner in all of this.
But the consumer will definitely probably come out the loser.
The loser. Oh, for sure. We're absolutely the loser.
Yeah.
Absolutely the loser.
The strike isn't going very much better at all. Seems like the writers thought they had a deal, and it turns out that the Hollywood producers kind of fucked them over. Kind of gave them another shit deal and said, if you don't sign this, we're going to leak it to the public, thinking that the public, for whatever reason, would take their side. But the deal
are the
shit.
Producers and the writers not? Oh, wait, no, this is the writers and actors that are striking.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
So, I'm sorry, the Hollywood
executives.
Yeah. And so the executives said, oh, we're going to leak this if you guys don't take it, show that we're trying to make a deal, and you guys aren't even trying to take it. And it backfired because everybody looked at the deal and said, this deal sucks. It doesn't give them really what they're asking for at all. And so Bob Iger even came out and said that he was upset personally that they didn't take the deal.
Who gives a flying fuck, Bob? Who cares that you're upset? You got your own shit going on right now. You should just stop commenting on this damn the shit.
Yeah.
The writer's strike. You stop.
He's the one coming out of this seeming more evil by the day.
Can you tell me how we're going to reinvigorate, commercial interest in Star Wars? Because I swear to God, if you don't have a genuine, God's honest Star Wars fan special on TV right now, you just can't get anyone to watch it. That's a you problem. That's not a creator problem. That's not a story writing. Really has nothing to do with the production. That's a you issue. If you're creating quality product like Ahsoka and no one's watching it, you're the issue, right? You are supposed to be the one that's culminating the audience. You are supposed to be the one helping steward the marketing of this brand. You are the CEO. If there's anyone that I'm expecting to lead the charge in terms of setting the tone for marketing, for branding, it's that guy. It's the captain, right? I certainly can't blame Dave Filoni. Well, how would I blame Dave Filoni? This would be the first project since Clone Wars that he spearheaded himself. So like he's had a nice long hiatus. Obviously, he's contributed in a lot of the ongoing Star Wars universe. It's not like he hasn't been around, but in terms of leading a project, or I'm sorry, Rebels in 2012 or whenever that shit came out.
Yeah, and he just doesn't have anywhere near the power that obviously Bob Iger does. Like,
but it's just not a quality problem, right? Yeah. You got people to come out to see, at least initially, to see Quantumania. You got people to come out to see Love and Thunder. You got people to come out and see Guardians. It seems like now we're at a point where people are associating Disney content with negativity. It is no longer the natural assumption that it is of quality because it came out of one of Disney's studios. That's not good. That's not good. And I mean, it also reflects in the stock price. I think they're down to $81 now. Shit, I might buy some Disney stock. They're not leading the industry anymore. They used to be the industry leaders. Yep. And when you were, that provides you a bit of grace and cushion, right? Every feat is a little bit bigger. Every loss is not that serious. Every setback is, not that memorable if they even talk about it at all. It also provides you media cover. It also provides you media preference, right? Imagine if this was 4 years ago and we had a mostly female-driven cast for a Star Wars project. Probably would have been first of its kind at that time. Rosario Dawson, you know what I mean? At the height of the Kathleen Kennedy forces female stuff, the trades would have been all over this. They would have ate it up, and they would have helped propel it to other people, to other normies, right? There would have been, these drone NPC people that still read Deadline and Variety, who would have marched to the beat of their drum right to Disney Plus to watch Ahsoka. The problem is that even they have turned on Disney. Even they are not standing up here telling you that Disney is the best thing ever. And that stands for Lucasfilm, that stands for Marvel, that stands for everybody. They are going to have an incredibly high barrier to people's expectations now because they no longer associate the Marvel or the Disney brand, Marvel, Disney, Lucasfilm, whatever, all of the merry bunch over there, with quality. So now the very first bar is you're going to have to convince people that this is a quality project. And then comes the nuances of actually what happened in the film, the story, the characters, and everything else, when that was supposed to be first all along. Not centering that has now realigned it as being second most of importance, because now you have this stench on your brand that naturally makes people assume that what you're giving them is going to be of a lower quality. And that's never a good thing. You've seen certain fast food restaurants go through that. Domino's comes to mind. Like when I was a kid, Domino's was the absolute pits, right? And it had gotten to the point where people, it became synonymous that bad pizza was Domino's. When you were talking about bad pizza, you might have mentioned Domino's in that same sentence because they are the quintessential bad pizza. That's what they had become, right? Oh, absolutely. And it gotten so bad that they had to own it in their marketing. They had to acknowledge it and speak about it in commercials. That is how low their brand trust had gotten at that point, to where they just had to own it and say, look, we've been crappy. We really dropped the ball. And here's our new pizza. And they've been able to work their way back into some sort of respectability.
They're at least better than Papa John's.
Domino's Pizza has never been what it was in the 90s since. Right? So, or even the early 2000s. Since they went through that rebrand. Disney's not ready to do that. They're not ready to fall on their sword and say, hey, we made mistakes. We were wrong. The way that we went about this was wrong, to invite fans back in. So now their bar is so much higher. They're going to have to create something that knocks people off their feet to get them generally interested in these universes again, because just quality content is not going to do it, unfortunately. If you focus on not making quality content enough, you dig a hole that just making quality content can't get you out of. And I think that's where Disney is at as a company.
Yeah. Show some humility.
For sure.
The next thing we have to talk about is Agatha name change.
Yeah, so sticking with the this weird little theme of changing the names of movies or projects altogether, right? We got the new Captain America name, and then now apparently instead of Coven of Chaos, it's going to be Agatha Diaries or some shit.
Agatha
like
Darkhold Diaries.
Darkhold Diaries. Oh, we're pulling back up the Darkhold. Cool. Is Elizabeth Olsen under contract currently? I don't think she is. I think she's up. I think she's done. So what the hell does that matter to me anyways? Somebody report to me that Elizabeth Olsen is re-upped, and then I will be interested. But what in the hell do I care about Agatha, the Darkhold, or any covens of witches if we're not leading this back to a Scarlet Witch return, which we can't confirm because she's not under contract currently and supposed to be dead in the MCU. Yep. What am I supposed to get from this show? Oh, Mephisto? Oh, that'll be fun with Sacha Baron Cohen and nothing to tie it back to source. Like, I just remember the moment it felt like first of all, it was the only reason why I was watching John Campea. Now I can say that safely and come to that realization now that I don't watch him anymore, that the only reason I was for the WandaVision breakdowns and eventually the Loki breakdowns and some of the other MCU shows that he was still doing, but don't do that shit anymore. Don't do that shit anymore. And WandaVision was the whole reason. Yep. But just the fan theory energy that was around that show and the prospect of, Mephisto and Evan Peters and Wonder Man and all the other theories that were coming out of that show. None of it for Ahsoka, not for any up and coming Marvel show, not for the last Secret Invasion. That energy is gone. 3 years. 3 years. That's all it took. From 2020 to 2023, that's all it took to dissipate that type of energy. You spent the same amount of money on the projects. Spent the same amount of money, made at the same studio with generally the same kind of direction. That is the type of loss we're talking about here. 3 years ago, people were staying up till 2 a.m. to watch this shit. Then they were waking up at 8 a.m. to watch John Campea and talk about it. Now, you'd be lucky if I see it by the end of the week. If I catch it by the end of the week, you're lucky.
It's definitely been a steady decrease in quality since the first show, which is crazy.
I think that it goes along with the general attitude of the company. See, like when you thought more positively about the company, you took the negatives as temporary. You thought, okay, this tide has to change eventually. It has to get better. And the more it doesn't get better, the more the norm then becomes to be whatever it is you're seeing, which is not quality.
Yeah.
So that trust is not there anymore. And that expectancy for it to turn around is flickering at best. At best. So, yeah, man, that's where I'm at with it. I don't know how else they can kind of make that happen, but poor marketing, I think, is the number one thing that has hurt them. Obviously, you know where I'm going with that in their communications around Chadwick Boseman's death, and that honestly, if I'm being for real, and I'm not trying to put a whole lot on it, but that kind of started the slide to me. That's what signaled to me that something around decision making, around spending money, was just not sound at Disney. Like, the prospect of what they were proposing was so wild and so antithetical to what was typical in Hollywood for these type of situations. It was a major red flag to me to see that and be like, hey, yo, something's not right. Either somebody doesn't have the right amount of control, or somebody has too much, or maybe the general attitude of the company just isn't correct. Something's not right here, man, because while I understood the emotion around the situation, what I could never reconcile is how someone who's in charge of the money could allow them to do this. Like, who's looking over the treasure chest? Who's stepping back analytically and saying, okay, here's how these situations have been laid out prior. Here's how they have been handled. And here's how they have played out financially. Because if anyone had done that, nowhere on that fucking list is going to be, let's make a funeral movie for our friend. No one's going to come up with that. And no one could reasonably track that from starting point, funeral, 2 years after the actor's death, and in that $1 billion film. No one's going to make that connection for you. No one could draw those dots.
Yeah.
You essentially paraded a man out to sell your movie after his death for it to underperform, which feels even more nasty.
And everyone told you along the way.
And the ignoring of the very loud fandom around that particular situation lets me know that they're not good at, first of all, the fiscal decisions that are being made. That is what it is. But then they're not good at pivoting either. They're not good at assessing the situation and zigging where they should zig.
They can't read the room. Nuts.
Or maybe they assumed at that point that their brand recognition was so strong that they would be able to power through it.
I could see that too.
But that initial hit, right? Like, what happened after that? So then, boom, we had that. Then you have Thor: Love and Thunder. Then you turn around at the start of the year and you have Quantumania.
And you've got She-Hulk around that time.
Then you had She-Hulk around that time too. It was like, okay, maybe if all of this other stuff didn't suck, let's play that game. If all that other stuff didn't suck and you still would have made this decision, it would have provided you some more cover. Trades would have been a little bit more profuse in singing your praises. Maybe you're able to push that thing above the finish line. Maybe. But the fact that you're actively ignoring the core of that fan base for that title, be that of Black Panther, and then you have all this other stuff going on in unison, that's a disaster. And so looking at all of that kind of culminating, I'm like, yo, no, this isn't right. I don't know if they're going to be able to pull themselves out of this hole so quickly because they're still actively making bad decisions.
Yep.
Yeah, I wonder what goes into that. Like, what was wrong with Coven of Chaos? Unless they materially change something about the show that would make the name null and void. But I'm just surprised that we're going back to the Darkhold, because the only person who would be tied to bringing that thing back would be Wanda and no Elizabeth Olsen on the payroll. So don't know where we're going with that.
Who knows? We'll see.
Yeah, we shall see.
All right. Daredevil and Ironheart seem to be in limbo, maybe, or supposedly being delayed, but
I'm really confused why supposedly shot shows aren't being slated to be released in the middle of this lull. Like, if you're Disney and you're accurately reporting not only the production budgets for your shows, but the calendars, right? If I'm taking you at your word, Acolyte, Coven of Chaos, Echo, and Daredevil have all been shot and finished, right? Maybe one or two of those still needs post-production work, but they're shot. Principal photography has already been done, right? Okay. So if that's the case, Disney should have 4 teaser trailers in the tuck, ready to bury their competitors in the sand, while everybody else is off.
don't know why else got nothing going on.
While no one else has content coming out, Disney should be kicking everyone else's teeth in, because they have all of that and they have the Acolyte, right? And they got Acolyte. What writer strike? We're good. Now, granted, you're not going to have the actors there or the writers to promote the shows and things of that nature, but everyone else doesn't have anything on TV. So if I'm to believe you, again, what you're reporting, Are you to tell me that you're just going to sit on all 5 of these television shows and wait it out like everyone else when you have finished product? Why? Why?
Because it's not that good.
Or it hasn't been completed.
Or they're lying. Yeah.
Or they've spent the money that they spent and it's still not done. That's what I believe is going on with The Acolyte. I believe they spent a bunch of money on it already and it's still not finished. Like, not even presentable to put on television, not finished. And they still have to spend more money on it. And while they're currently going through all of this stuff and they're strapped for cash, the last little cherry on top that they need is, oh yeah, by the way, The Acolyte's not finished. We need another $100 million. Nope. First of all, do you know Leslie Hutland, the lady who's doing doing The Acolyte? She was Harvey Weinstein's assistant.
I had no idea.
Hold on, man. Hold on. Wait. She was the secretary to the casting couch, and she's making Disney content. That's rich. That is absolutely rich with a pro-feminist feel to it. Man, you gotta love it, right? Weinstein's personal assistant. Damn. Yikes. I wonder who was inviting all those girls to those meetings. You know, Weinstein did all his scheduling personally. He had a personal assistant, but he scheduled all his casting call meetings by himself. You can't make this shit up, man. Crazy. You cannot make this shit up. Anyways, what we got next?
Jonathan Majors.
Oh, yeah. We got a trial coming up, right? We lasted through the second delay. And at this point, if we ain't got nothing, they can only delay this, 90 days? Because he has a right to a speedy trial.
Yep.
Been since March. Yep. We've done a bunch of investigating.
Yep.
Apparently, Rolling Stone's been on this shit for, at this point, half a year?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Where we at? We ready to go? Prosecution? And are we going to hear anything in court that we haven't already known?
No.
That's what I'm waiting on, man. I'm waiting on opening statements on day 1 of the trial from the prosecution. That's what I want to hear. Because what I'm going to be looking for is this information that not just them, but many have alluded to is, right around the corner and that we need to be wary of because, we just don't have all the ducks in a row yet. We don't have all the information. So the most important thing is going to be at the onset for me. What is the prosecution holding back that we don't know that's keeping them in this case? I'd like to hear it. It is the most important thing to me because everything else seems pretty cut and dry. Any reports of old girl Lindsay McMahon making her way back to the States? Or is she still in the UK? Are we going to prosecute a trial for a victim who recanted their statement and is not going to testify and is not going to come back to the United States for fear of being compelled to testify? That's where we at. We want a black man that bad that we're going to prosecute a case for a woman who doesn't want to prosecute it and is trying everything in her power not to testify to that effect.
Yep.
Damn, y'all want Jonathan Majors bad. I wonder what it could be. Oh, and the body cam footage. But the body cam footage is not going to confirm anything to me that I didn't already know about the NYPD. But I'd love to see it. For sure. Love to see it. Love to see how we came to the conclusion after Jonathan Majors had to unlock his way in to get to her. How we came up with the conclusion that he must have beat the shit out of her. And that's why she was so disoriented and bruised and whatnot. Right? I'd love to see how we got to that conclusion. But again, most important thing to me is, so what we hiding? What don't we know? Enlighten me.
A lot of questions to be answered. We will obviously keep up on that, but it's going to be interesting to see. They didn't have anything then. Probably not going to have anything now.
Probably don't have anything now. Yeah. So. Yeah.
Continental had a trailer. Show that we will be reviewing, by the way.
Second trailer, yep.
It's only going to be
three-part series?
Only going to be 3 parts.
Should be 1.5 hour episodes, every single one.
Yeah. We'll see if
anything less than 50 minutes is a disappointment.
We'll see if that happens. Well, you know what? It's actually it's not Marvel, so
I mean, yeah, I guess,
sure.
We'll see.
maybe.
We'll see.
Yeah, but everything about it looks really good from what I've seen. I mean, the story makes sense. It acts as a prelude to what we see in the actual John Wick movies. I'm ready for it.
I just don't know if so from what I'm gathering from the trailer is that Winston kind of fell into his position at the Continental, as opposed to it being a lineage thing, or his family's history being tied to it or anything like that. So I didn't expect it to be that mundane, for him to just kind of be a rando who fell into an opportunity. But we'll see how it plays out.
Continental should be dope. I'm here for it. And like I said, we'll be reviewing it, so you guys will get to know what we think about each part.
For sure. Let us know what you thought about everything we discussed today here on Behind the Cape. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Come back next week. We do it every week.
Absolutely. Make sure you check out our previous episode where we discussed Ahsoka, the first 2 episodes, which this guy seemed to like very much so. And then make sure you stay up with us. We do this every week.